Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Ooh, hope you enjoyed that lovely Brutal OST as we've returned. We've returned here with the second half of the broadcast. I mean, let's say second half, the final stretch. The final stretch here. It's been a long cast already. It's been a long show, 4.5 hours, covering purely the macro maps. But now we have the final segment, the final category, the dynamic maps for the Team Liquid map contest number 22. Whew, oh boy. It's been a long time coming, and we have a lot of expectations. Let us jump on in. We have the first game, we have the first map. It is going to be Blackshift. You heard of red shift, you heard of blue shifts. We need more colors, clearly. God damn it. Here we go. We're jumping to Blackshift here. As we just quickly make sure we have everything set up. Here we go. Oh my god. The hell's going on here? But we have our two small locations. We do have, oh my god, there's a lot going on. We have bottom left and top right. Okay. Speaking of dynamic, so when it comes to the dynamic map pool, there's a lot less restrictions. There's a lot of chaos going on, and we'll see if we find some gems in the rough. This is where we kind of throw norms out the window. There can be some crazy stuff going on. We're gonna have to on the fly kind of judge and determine how good or how bad something is. Already, let's go. This is the main. This is the main expansion, by the way. So we have the main base. We have a random little elevated position. we have some random elevated high ground here right next to the main, which is kind of weird. I guess we could hide some tech, we could hide some proxies. I guess here on the high ground. It also helps us scout on the low ground, and we have a Zonaga tower that covers the main. You can see, right, like the Zonaga tower does cover the sorry, there we go. You can see the Zonaga tower does cover the entirety of the main, doesn't see behind the main mineral line, but does see the main base, does see the pocket expansion, we'll get there, does scout the forward, he sees everything. What the hell? Oh my god. So we have a Zonaga tower covering your first three expansions for the most part. Down here we have the low ground natural expansion. It is a pocket base, pseudo pocket, because it does open up here due to these destructible debris, due to the Zerg debris that do burn out over time. They bleed out over time. So high ground set up here outside of the third base, outside of the pocket expansion. We do have the natural expansion here on the right. Ideally you want to save and preserve that pocket base for later. True. Now what does this Zonaga tower do? It means that if you worker scout your opponent, you can immediately see what expansions they've taken. Immediately you will scout as you come in from the low ground. You come in, you confirm whether they took the pocket base, and you can also get a full scout of the main. For the most part, you still have to get behind the mineral patch if you don't see a pylon, but this does provide a lot of scouting information. Crazy. Meanwhile, we have our, of course, low ground natural expansion here. We also have a ramp coming into the main base. We also, Jesus, I just realized we also have rocks coming into the main. So this main base is not secure. It's not a secure natural, it's not a secure main base, and of course the third base has a standard kind of opening here. Another Zonaga tower, which, quickly checking, does cover the fourth location, or I guess the third location, covers the main attack path as well. This will be used defensively. So when you're expanding, when you're setting up, you'll most likely be taking the Zonaga tower defensively, so you can spot any kind of aggression, any move outs, any rotations, any scouting, anything coming your way. Just because, remember, everything else is walled off. So technically, you control this Zonaga tower, you will see all like the main like rotations towards you. We have a healing shrine. There's so much going on. What is happening? We have like rocks leading into bases. We have destructibles. I didn't even get to speak on that, but you can destroy this cooling tower to destroy the Zonaga tower. We have a healing shrine and a slow zone off to the right hand side of the map as well. It's like a pocket like healing pad on both sides. So we have pocket healing pads. We have a very short rush distance, a very direct rush distance across the map. Quickly checking. Let's quickly see here. What is the rush distance by ground? This is on Blackshift. This is 33 seconds. Okay, not too long. Not too long. That actually, I assumed it was going to be a longer rush. So you go down, across, and then in. I'm assuming they're taking into consideration this natural base, by the way. This natural. but it is a long distance here all the way across to get here. So 33 seconds. So I would say on the longer side of things when it comes to that rush distance. and you have your own personal healing shrine. So this is contentious. If you recall, this is not the only map that has featured this. We have had other maps that basically have your own pocket, your own personal healing shrine outside of the 4th or 3rd. So you have your main, natural, 3rd base, and then bam, pocket healing shrine. But what I will say, there is a difference. There is a difference between this map and the other map. I think it was like Hellfire, or there was like a fire map that featured the healing pad. This healing pad being your own personal healing pad, I mean, one, there's a slow zone, so there is a punish, right? There is a way to punish and try to catch units going to or coming from the healing pad. So there's a slow zone that punishes this. More importantly, because of the layout of this terrain, exposed main, exposed natural. If you want to rotate over it and make use of the healing pad, again, you have other bases here that are exposed and more vulnerable than on other maps. So this, I would say, does counterbalance the strength of the healing pad, because this is strong, right? It is strong to have your own personal healing pad on your own half of the map. But the balance here comes in the idea of having more exposed bases and more vulnerable locations. So I do like this. I do like that kind of counterplay here, because the issue with the previous time we saw this was that there was very little counterplay available. If you recall, it was a much more friendly turtley map to be able to maintain, and leading into your own healing shrine as well. Meanwhile, we have the center expansions. We have the high yield gas base here in the center. We have some other bases here off the right hand side. Whoa, hold on. What is going on? Is this an island? We have an island expansion. Obviously, there's a worker path. There's a worker path coming in. That's the only way in. We have islands, kind of. It's like a pseudo island base. Okay. 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 Let's go. This map is wild. There's so much going on. There's so much going on with Xel'Naga Tower is destructible. Again, Zerg debris, regular debris, Xel'Naga Tower. Remember, we started with this. We have Xel'Naga covering the 3 expansions for scouting, and we have like a random like platform here for no reason. I still don't understand the platform, I'll be honest. Like, I guess it could be kind of used for proxies, maybe. Even then, I don't even know. Like, it's just weird. But again, we have like our own like pseudo island expansion. We got the healing shrine. It's, you know what this map is? It's exciting. There's so much going on. Here we have more destructible debris in the center. So my initial concern coming into this map was it would be too aggressive. But remember, the rush distance by ground was longer. It's a 33 seconds. So longer rush distance by ground does counteract that. Likewise, these bases are more vulnerable, but you can knock down these towers to increase the rush distance even further by knocking this down, walling this area off as well. What am I looking at? What is this? Is this terrain? Is that a full wall? Wait, what? What am I looking at? What is this? Is that why the distance is so long? Is that a full wall? What is that? What is that? Hold on, we gotta jump in. We gotta we're jumping into the game. We must investigate, Pappy. We must investigate. Hold on. It's a little bit broken at the moment. Options. Oh my, wait, what? That's a full wall. Wait, what? Oh, it's, wait. It's destructible debris. It's very low HP, by the way. I can't even... Huh. Okay. What is that? What is that? I can't even select. I mean, I don't think I have the settings to select at the moment, but okay. Yo, this map is crazy. This map is wild, Pappy. We got some professional old school map makers in the chat that don't even know what the hell's going on. They don't even know. Oh god. Hold on, Pappy, hold on. But it might be an editor bug. We'll see. We'll open it up again. But we have a full wall in the center. It's very fragile. I don't know if you saw, it takes like what, 4 hits? But yeah, apparently here, that's a full wall. Okay. I mean, so that explains the rush distance, because I was perplexed as to like, is this really 33 seconds? But I guess this does elongate the rush distance by ground, at least when it comes to the scouting. But that also changes things, because now suddenly the rush distance by ground provided isn't really accurate, because these rocks are not really rocks. Like they apply to worker scouting, that is true, but these rocks can be very easily killed and destroyed, and that will reduce the rush distance by a couple of seconds. How many, I can't say for certain, but I'll say by a couple. So that does favor more aggression. That was my big concern, was how favored aggression is going to be with how exposed some of these bases are coming into the mid game. Are we missing anything else? Gotta make sure we're not missing anything else. We gotta Those are destructible? Yes. I destroyed them when we were in game. Light's now gonna go through every map again, panic selecting everything. True. Oh no. Not like this. Okay. So how do we rate this map? That's the big question here. Let's clean it up a little bit. So what do we consider? Okay, so we have our main base. When it comes to this map, we have ease of scouting. In regards to worker scouting will be able to confirm which bases are taken, the timing, and also makes it a little bit easier to scout for proxies. I'm still a little bit perplexed as to the purpose of that platform, but again, I guess we can try to, because you can't even hide tech from the Zelnaga tower. Bearing in mind that worker scouting, Reapers will get here as well. Like Reapers, Adept scouting, like the Adept will shade in when harassing in like PvZ and will take over control of the Zelnaga tower. So there's going to be a lot of information gained. Very quickly, the Zelnaga tower does not see the gases at the pocket base. Okay, so some limitations when it comes to the vision and the information you're getting, but for the most part, you are getting quite a bit here with this. Likewise, I guess you can try to, I mean, you shouldn't be able to hide anything here considering the power of the Zelnaga tower. True. For the most part, unless you can deny the scout, of course. The map does open up in a longer and later game. We do have a relatively secure initial 2 and 3 base setup early on, at least. That obviously does eventually change. Early on, you have vision of any kind of movement. You have the healing pad, which is another big factor, which will help you coming into defensive play. Will this be used aggressively? This is where the slow zone comes into play, right? If you're going for like a proxy and if you want to make use of this, the slow zone will hurt you as you try to make use of the healing shrine and reinforce your army. So I really like the use of the slow zone here. Like it does really help hinder the strength of the healing shrine when time is of the essence. So I do like that. When it comes to trying to turtle up, it's very open. It's very accessible, I should say. Like it's going to be difficult to be very turtle heavy on this map, I feel. especially because you're kind of forced to expand in a certain direction. You can't really take this center base early on. So you're spreading yourself thin, and again, the map opens up, which I think is a good thing for the most part. The rush distance, again, I'm a little bit concerned that maybe all-ins are a little bit too strong because of the rush distance by ground. But yeah, this map is crazy. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Fun out of 10. Oh, true. We glossed over that, but yeah, we have the island bases as well. The pseudo island expansions. True. Which I don't know if that'll come into play. Like, if aggression is favored too much, I'll be honest, I don't know if we can take that base. But you can take this as like a ninja, right? You can take it as like a ninja expansion, as an alternate like fourth base. Yeah, like as an alternate fourth. So you have your main, natural, third, and then bam, you take the ninja. You take the pocket base. Sorry, the island base even. Air blockers in the healing shrine? No. Ah. No air blocker on the healing shrine. Ooh. That's unfortunate. We spoke about it earlier, but the strength of having the Oracle harass, poke in, get 1, 2, 3 kills, take some hull damage and pull away, that is concerning. You know what? You know what I would do? I would either have air blockers surrounding this, or I would have a slow zone. Another one. Just have we have a ground slow zone, have an air slow zone. I kind of like that idea. Because that would help punish. That would help punish like Oracle usage of the healing shrine. Can you fly around? Or just surround it? Just surround it in slow zones, baby. Ah, all the way, baby, all the way. Could also just put a flat slow zone directly on top of the zone. I mean, so the reason why I would have the slow zone here is because that would directly impact Oracle's moving in this direction and moving out of this direction, and that basically means that queens that are here can punish, right? Sorry, so that's why I would have the slow zone here, is that basically it means that defensive queens or defensive units that are on the low ground would punish the Oracle moving in and out of the healing shrine. That's why I would have it here specifically. If it was here, then it wouldn't impact that, right? Like if it was over the healing shrine itself, like then it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't really do anything. Personally, don't like rocks to the main. Isn't it impossible to defend against Zergling all-ins? Well, first, you would scatter ahead of time thanks to the Zelnaga Tower. That's the first thing. It depends on your Sim City, and it depends on where you are. We have seen Ling defenses where... So, what race are we thinking of here, for example? If we're thinking of, say, PVZ, if you see it coming ahead of time, do you have enough time to set up like a pylon and a battery in your mineral line and make a mineral line defense instead? I think the strength of an all-in here, I mean, I don't know how hefty these are, of course. I think the strength of an all-in would be threading the natural or threading the main, and forcing the Protoss to commit to one defense or the other. I think that's a good reason for, in PvZ, for the Protoss player to claim their pocket base. Because then you're kind of limiting how the links can be aggressive and where they can go. So think like PvZ, like if you take this pocket expansion, then you can start walling this area off instead. You get me? Instead of expanding here first and walling off like here, you'd expand here first and wall off here. In my mind. I think obviously against Terran, like Terran will just punish. Like any Lings like harassing here will just get punished. But yeah, I think adjustments will have to be made specifically for PvZ, like with how they approach this and how they expand. Because this doesn't have to be taken as a natural, of course. Okay, okay. But yeah, I think my biggest issue is the healing shrine now. Either air blockers or slow zone. I would want one or the other. But outside of that, it's exciting. Is it the most balanced? Again, I still feel like aggression is going to be favored here for sure. It's going to be favored. But that's the point, right? Like it's meant to be an aggressive map. So I feel like the bar has been set very high. I feel like the bar has been set very, very high here for Blackshift for dynamic maps, and I feel like it's all downhill from here. Because this map is crazy. No. No. We can't go up from here, right? No shot. No shot. Force will stand pocket since Zerg Rock will eventually break by time. Yeah. Can't wait to see that. Okay. It's a high bar. It's a high bar. But I agree. I think for PvZ, I think you have to take the Poké expansion as a natural, I should say, as your natural. But yeah. Okay. Let's go, baby. Let's go. And of course, that's when you have your own personal Zonaga tower to scout for any all-ins coming towards your own rocks and things of that nature. Defensive Zonaga tower. True. Jesus. Okay. What do I even say about this map? TLMC dynamic. Blackshift. Sorry, I'm just writing notes. Okay, cool. Alright, up next, we have Dream and Scars, a map that we have seen before. So a map that we do have experience with, was in the previous TLMC, and I'm curious if changes have been made. Actually, hold on, very, very quickly, I should actually mention what the map maker comments were on Blackshift. So hold on. So these are the map maker comments. This map tries to answer the question: how crazy can you make a balanced map before every race thinks it's imbalanced against them personally? True. Pocket base, but low ground. Watchtower in the main, and no safe airspace, but tons of entrances. Zerg rocks, islands, healing shrines, towers, and fun. I appreciate this description. Features: options of natural expansions, Zonaga towers in the main, high ground in the main base, less airspace, such as near the main expansion, more side blockers, airspace due to the edges of the map being on the high ground, pseudo island bases, true. Did mention that, destructible towers, destructible Zonaga towers, low HP rocks, worker only paths, colossal traversable cliffs, Zerg rocks, inhibitor zones, rich high Vespene geyser bases, and fun. So again, I agree with all of what was said there when it comes to how fun and crazy it is. I would just limit the healing pad more than anything. I think that's my biggest concern. Otherwise, let the fun begin, Pappy. Let it begin. Up next, we do have Dream and Scars. Okay. So a map that we have experienced before. Unfortunately, I don't know what changes have been made, so let's quickly open up last season's Dream and Scars and compare. Hold on. Dream and Scars has been featured in other events as well, other tournaments. It looks like there has been some terrain shifts in the center. It looks like some rocks were added. It looks like a ramp was widened. Another ramp was reduced. I'm just looking at side by side. Okay. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. They have it in Picasar. Dream and Scars, is it still in Picasar Cup? We because Dream and Scars was featured last season, we ran it in our own tournaments as well. We ran it in our tournaments. Picasar Cup, other events as well. But here we go. Okay, so we have our main base. So, bam. We have our main expansion. So, for those that maybe didn't watch some of the other online tournaments featuring this map in the last season, this map features a kind of like a 4-player spawn map. You can spawn in bottom right, bottom right, bottom left, top right, and top left as well. But this isn't really truly a 4-player spawn map. This is only cross spawn. So basically, the map changes if you spawn in bottom left and top right, or bottom right and top left. So you have to kind of look at this in 2 different ways. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, I think I pressed something by accident. Okay. So you have to look at it in a couple different ways. Very quickly here, we do have our main. So initially, when it comes to bottom left and top right, so that's why you have like the Dream spawn and the Scar spawn. So bottom left, we do have a pocket expansion. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Kind of. So if you spawn in bottom left, you have your natural expansion here, but there's also a worker only path coming down to the low ground. So you can take a high yield gas geyser expansion early on as, I mean, you can try to take it as natural. Usually we saw it as a third base. Now the downside of trying to take this as a third, as you can see here, we have high ground. It's a narrow ramp. Coming into this, a little bit more narrow. Coming into this low ground expansion, you have the high ground advantage to try to punish the high yield expand. To get there, as the defending player, you will have to do what? Break through these rocks. Oh, wait, what? Wait, what? Are these not rocks anymore? Am I crazy? Is this permanent? Oh, okay. Okay. So thank you. I think I pressed the wrong thing by accident. Okay. So you have these destructible rocks. So these rocks are destructible, so you have to break them down yourself, or I guess your opponent can break them down in another instance to gain access to this expansion to have some safer rotation. So it is a high yield expansion, which is difficult to take. On top of that, if you decide to take your regular natural and take the linear third expansion or the forward third expansion, then these rocks can be knocked down by your opponent to gain access to the area in between your main and your natural to go for an all-in or to be aggressive. So this area is more vulnerable potentially if those rocks get knocked down. True. Meanwhile, we do have our linear expansion. As I mentioned before, I think this ramp was made a little bit wider. I think originally it was a little bit more narrow, but has been widened. We do have our base here on the bottom right and our base in the center right as well. So we have our natural into our third and fourth expansions if we don't want to go for the high yield base. So more of a standard base setup here. We do have wider entrances into them. Because of the terrain, you have to go back around to be able to rotate back and forth to defend. So that can be difficult. Aggressive rotations does have that advantage over you as the defender. Likewise, there's also this area here that can be utilized. You have the high ground advantage at least, and you have these rocks that can be broken down as well. So we have multiple attack paths into your initial 4 base setup. Personally, I do appreciate that. Again, typically turtle heavy play is disfavorable, so I appreciate that there are ways to try to counteract that and try to punish an overly defensive player to instead try to fight for map control instead. Jesus. To fight for map control. Speaking of, we have another worker path here in the middle for scouting, so you can scout a little bit faster across the map. We have more destructible debris here in the center, and that leads to, again, the diagonal spawn. Do we have rush distances by ground? Let me just double check here. Dream Scars 47 and 29. I think this is the longer rush distance, potentially. But 47 seconds is crazy. Oh my god. Crazy, baby, crazy. Oh no, I think this is shorter. Yeah, I think this is the shorter rush distance. Meanwhile, shifting perspectives, we do have instead the alternate spawn location where you spawn in, I believe here, yep, you spawn in on the bottom right hand corner of the map, and you have a true pocket base. You have a true pocket expansion available to you here, which can be taken a little bit later on. Which can be taken later. Sorry, oh, there we go. So we have our main base, we have the pocket expansion behind it. Once we go down to the low ground here, we have a couple of options. We can expand towards the south side, towards this, I guess, triangular third location, or we can go for the linear third, which, hey, that's the high yield expansion from the kind of like from a different perspective. But we can take this high yield expansion as a safer base actually, because now you're coming in from the south side and you can just take it naturally. There are rocks that can be knocked down to open up the attack path, but it's going to be much more awkward to break down these rocks to gain access towards this expansion. So this is a much safer base if you expand here from the bottom right hand corner. So you just have to protect this location here, and of course there's a different attack path over here as well. True. Otherwise, I guess you can take this triangular third and expand towards the south side. But for the most part, you're going to be incentivized to try to expand forward and take the high yield expansion instead. When it comes to the planes of elevation, it's kind of blended in, but they're a little bit further out. So because that, you have no real high ground advantage when it comes to defending. That is not going to be as available. But for the most part, I would say that you have a pretty safe and secure 3-base setup, right? Because of the pocket expansion and because of the secure high yield base as well. Very, very safe. That leads into longer rush distance across the map. I believe that is going to be 47 seconds, if I recall correctly, from natural to natural. So longer rush distance, and does often lead to longer and later games. Often. So it's just really cool. It's really cool to have like two sides of the same coin, a more like aggressive spawn location, a more vulnerable one, or a much more defensive one instead. So you do have multiple kind of ways to approach this map. I did have my own critiques on this previously. What were they exactly? Let's have a look. I think I criticized this map for having a difficult 4-base setup. I would disagree with that here. I think that your 4-base setup is relatively secure. I mean, there are multiple attack paths and multiple attack angles. That is true. I mean, this is meant to be the more aggressive, more difficult to defend kind of location. When it comes to the other one, you have your main, you have your natural, you have your third. No, yeah, the fourth. Like, they're... Like this, like, how do... Like, no shot you break down these rocks and take these northern bases as a fourth, do you? You do spread yourself thin. I could be mistaken, but I don't think we ever got any late game on Dream and Scars, right? I don't think, at least I didn't cast any. I didn't cast any late game on Dream and Scars. This can be destroyed. So I think my my critique or my feedback was that like it'll be difficult to maintain 4 bases on a map like this. I think it's easier to maintain this 4-base setup at least. You have one, you have like 2 main attack paths for the most part. For the other one, for sure. Like I can see aggression breaking you in the other spawn location. But it depends. Like if people start expanding a little bit more linearly here towards the other corners of the map, then maybe they can maintain themselves. But they are going to be spread quite thin. They're going to be spread very, very thin, which was our main point. But I don't think that should necessarily detract too much away from the map itself. Upside down. Oh no, I know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this map. I think I do have some regrets that I didn't rate this map a little bit higher last time. So I definitely will be doing so next time as well. It is very pretty. It's very aesthetically pleasing as well. I don't have really as much to say just because we've already gone through this map before, and there weren't any too drastic changes. But looking forward to it. I'm probably going to rate this a little bit higher. I appreciate the idea of having like different spawn locations leading to different kind of game states as well. Having that X factor. For sure. Oh. One moment. I haven't seen anyone else bring this up, but I'm having a hard time loading one of the maps. Are we good? Oh yeah. Avex, I don't know if you have access to some of the other maps here, but hold on, I'll leave a message in the Discord. What map? Exarch. It's just not opening. It's not opening, Pappy. Not opening. Ah. Exarch. Okay. Cool. So I guess we're skipping a map for now. Up next is Fear and Faith, which is another map that we have gone through before. So another resubmission. Okay, Fear and Faith. This one, I'm curious to see, likewise, what changes were made. Un momento here. Fear and Faith. Now, the map might be similar, but here we do have a 4-player spawn map. We can spawn in bottom left, bottom right, top right, and top left. So 4 possible spawn locations. It's been a long time since we had a 4-player spawn map, so I'm excited to potentially see one coming into next CLMC. Very quickly, though, I do want to quickly check and compare this map from the previous one to see if any changes were made from season to season. Un momento. I'll be honest, it looks exactly the same. That's disappointing. Maybe Avex can correct me, but I believe there were some changes to Dream and Scars, but for Fear and Faith, it looks like a carbon copy. Yeah, looks like the same. Okay. What was my previous critique of of Fear and Faith? So my concern, sorry, maybe this was adjusted. I didn't see in the minimap. I was a little bit concerned about the lack of Reaper cliffs to get into bases for scouting information. That was a concern that I had. I think that's maybe one of the only concerns though. What area are you getting? I think it says like missing components, something of that nature. I'll try to open it again after this. But here we do have our main. We have our main expansion. Main base is quite large. Now, something really interesting here, we have our natural. It's a really defendable 2-base setup. We do have our high ground natural expansion leading down and behind us into said main expansion. We have a worker-only path leading into it, of course. And we have a monorail system to scout. Let's go. We can jump into the monorail. We can jump into the monorail and we can scout across the map. Now, I believe the monorail system is only accessible to workers. So only workers can go through these big tubes to basically scout across the entire edge of the map, going from corner to corner to corner. And you can see there are other like little tube systems as well for additional scouting when it comes to nearby locations as well. So we do have like this like entire monorail system going from corner to corner. Again, this is designed to make it a little bit easier to scout for your opponent, to find your opponents on a large map like this, because there's different spawn locations. So again, 4 possible spawn locations. Really secure 2-base setup. When it comes to our 3rd and 4th bases, this is where we gotta look in. We do have our 3rd and 4th base, so we do have an area here in between the bases. It is cut up, it is sliced up by some of the terrain here, so it is going to be a little bit easier to maintain and to defend as a defender, as we can be in position. Likewise, we have one pathway here in towards the, I guess, triangular 3rd. The other linear 3rd base location here, likewise, pretty secure. We can knock down these rocks for a different attack angle and attack path, but for the most part, you're pretty secure on 4 bases. Like, this is a pretty, again, the distance between them, quite short here between all 4 spawn locations, so pretty safe 4-base setup. Pushing across the map does open up a little bit over time. We can knock down some of these rocks and we can engage ahead of time. I'm okay with this. If you remember, I said something earlier, right? If we have a secure, easy 4-base setup, at least have the center be more open. And it is more open, right? It is a little bit more open. Once you can knock down these rocks, once you can open this up, then you can attack from multiple angles to slow down an army, to stifle an army, because it will be more difficult to really engage and disrupt their initial 4 bases. The 5th base is going to be more difficult. You can actually use the monorail system to expand in one of the corners instead, and take one of the main bases as a 5th and 6th. That might be safer than just taking a low ground expansion. True. I mean, technically, actually, now that I think about it, so once you take this base, you can use this the tube system to head on over, and then to take this base as like a 5th. But it is more exposed, right? It is more exposed, is more vulnerable. So it might just be safer to take one of the other corner bases. So yeah, it's a unique concept. It is a unique concept, for sure. Unique idea. I'm not opposed to it. I'm curious to see. I believe last time this was the only 4-player map. I'm hoping there are maybe more to kind of like to contrast, like compare and contrast this map with some of the other 4-player maps. Once again, I will say that the biggest issue with 4-player small maps is scouting, but because of the tube system here, that is kind of alleviated, right? It becomes a little bit easier to scout. You evac your workers. True, right? Like if you take this expansion, if you get harassed, you can evacuate. You can get the hell out of here through the tube system as well, through the monorails map. True. You can also evacuate, keep them safe. Something else to bear in mind. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting map. Again, this was around for the previous TLMC as well. Was also around. I think my big criticism was, if I remember correctly, was the fact that there was only one Reaper cliff here in, but you can rely on worker scouts, I suppose, so it's not the biggest of deals. Like, there are alternate ways to scout. Very quickly though, I'll try to open up Exarch again and I'll let you know the error. It says unable to load file, core file not found, component list SE2 components. I'll give you a screenshot. There's one in the right of the main, the little arrow. Right of the main base. What? What are we looking at? Oh, you mean here? You mean from the natural? Yeah. I'm sorry, I was just referring to Reaper Cliff into the natural base. So there's one. I mean, there's a regular ramp as well. Then we have the Reaper Cliff here. But again, we have worker paths. We have monorail systems. Yeah. The one Reaper Cliff jumps on. But yeah, with that, looking forward to it. I'm mainly curious to see if there's other 4-player spawn maps, once again, so we can just compare, right? We can compare, we can try to judge them amongst themselves, just because it feels like they're in a bit of a category of their own. Up next, we have Lilith. I just realized I have not been updating the text file, so I do apologize. Up next is Lilith. There we go. Yeah, all good. Okay, what do we have here? So we got our Diablo theme, I assume. Este Diablo. We have cross spawns. Okay, we have bottom right and top left. Let us get into this. Is this what is this? Okay. I was like, are these rocks? Just aesthetic here. We have our main expansion, nothing too crazy, coming down into the low ground. We have our natural, high ground natural expansion, but we have multiple entrances into the natural. Okay. Kind of. Like, we have seen instances like this before. So again, the natural expansion is a little bit more open. We have a ramp leading into said natural. We have an entrance here on the right hand side leading to the third base, which also has a ramp. Yeah, this is very Diablo-esque, I want to say. So you have high ground natural, high ground third base, high ground fourth expansion. The fourth base is a little bit more open, but for the most part, again, high ground expansions. That is odd. We have a low ground double gas geyser base that can be taken from both sides. Okay, interesting. The rocks, of course, will delay you from taking it yourself. So this will be delaying any kind of early rushes to rush into the gas geyser as a natural, as a third expansion. So this should be taken as the fourth, if not fifth base. I would say that's a good thing to delay the high yield bases. But this is a pretty large map, actually. I will say that your initial 4 bases is pretty safe and secure, but you are spreading yourself somewhat thin. I will still say that this ramp is, this area can be walled up and walled off, so you can leave minimal units here to defend and focus mainly at your third expansion and at your fourth expansion as well. You have your fifth base, which will be taken on the low ground. You have a sixth expansion here on the right hand side, and you have an entire area here towards the top side. Okay, this center area is interesting. There's a lot of angles. It feels like if we're pushing through the center, there are ways to counterattack, there are ways to come in from behind. We have line of sight blockers as well, so you can engage the army in the center. If you recall, I mentioned this previously. Hey, if your 4-base setup is relatively easy, and I would say that this is pretty straightforward. This is like a pretty straightforward 4-base setup, then open up the middle, and we have like a little bit more of an open center of the map. I say open, we have line of sight blockers, we have points of elevation, of course, as well. We have backstab or counterattack potential. So I'm relatively fond of the center of the map, but nothing else here. I would say this map is pretty tame. Like, we've seen, I told you, the bar was set real high with Blackshift. Like, Blackshift, like, set the bar. And from there, like, we've had like some quirky like 4-player spawn maps like Dream and Scars, Fear and Faith. This feels a little bit more standard. The one quirky thing, of course, is double gas, right? Like the double gas geyser expansion. This does mean that if you want to turtle up, then you're going to be punished even harder by your opponents, as they can take their own high yield gas base and maybe even take your high yield gas base, or threaten it at least. They can threaten the expansion. You could argue that this setup here is odd and unique, and it is. It's a little bit different, but for the most part, like, this isn't too wild. Like, we've seen things similar to this before. I think usually we basically have, imagine this, except the natural base is a little bit further back, so the natural base would typically be a little bit safer. Here it's a little bit more exposed, but you still have the high ground, right? You still have the ramp, you still have the point of elevation. It's still a relatively narrow ramp as well, so I would say this map is more tame, but I wouldn't say it's bad. I actually like it. I actually do like this map. The aesthetic, the pros and cons, like the amount of punish, like how open or how not as open it is as well in the center. Like, it's not overly open, it's not overly punishing. Maybe this map should have been the macro map, so it's a solid. Yeah, I should emphasize that, like, this map isn't really too crazy, it's not really too chaotic, but it's not a bad map at all. I actually quite like it. Cool. Okay. We also have a lot of maps to get through, so we can... Up next, we have New Moon. New Moon. I'm ready for the werewolves, Pappy. True. Okay, we do have bottom right. We have bottom right and top left spawns. I have to quickly double check to make sure it's not 4-player. Also, my apologies. I should have read the mapmaker comments on Lilith. Whoa. 19 seconds. Hold on. I need to open it up again. I completely missed that. Hold up, Babby. Hold up. Whew, it's a good thing I checked. Oh, we gotta wind it back, Pappy. Something that kind of glossed over my mind. 19-second rush distance. That's crazy. That's here. From natural to natural. That's 19 seconds. Hold up. Let me just read this. You know what? I just assumed that there was more space in between. I just made that assumption. Un momento, papi, un momento. Hold up, Lilith. We misjudged you. Multiple wall-offs for the natural, and I mean, there are multiple different wall-off, I guess, ideas for the natural. Hold on. Okay, the description doesn't really add anything here. It says, rush map that suggests multiple wall-offs for the natural and spicy clashes around purple bases. True. Natural base has 2 passageways partially blocked by rocks, which allows the defender to get a standard wall between them or get a separate lesser wall for each passage individually. Okay. Double risk. They're not addressing the rush distance. Again, 19 seconds is insane. Like, that's crazy. What I will say is that all-inning up this ramp is going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult to all-in up this ramp. Specifically in regards, I mean, in regards to everything, really. So that does offset it a little bit, but that's crazy. I don't think I've seen a rush distance that short before. Yeah, Avex, calm down, baby, calm down. Calm down. Yeah, fun fact, even amongst all the quote-unquote rush maps, this is the shortest rush distance. It was here in the dynamic. 19 seconds. That's crazy. Do I believe that despite the short rush distance, we can survive like early Ling Floods and early Queen all-ins and Roach rushes and things of that nature? Do I believe we can defend here? I believe. I want to see it. But now I understand why this isn't dynamic. Now it makes sense. It makes sense. Alright, take us to Lumen. Get us out of here. Alright. Up next, we do have bottom right and top left. We do have our main. Our main base is relatively standard. I say that the main base is a little bit more accessible. A little bit more accessible here into the main, so bear that in mind. Aggression can be favored in regards to Blink Stalkers. We do have our natural expansion here is going to be on the high ground. So high ground, natural base. Everything looks relatively normal when it comes to our initial 2-base setup, outside of how exposed the main is. Oh, this is different. So the pathway here towards the third is a little bit longer, so much longer when it comes to the triangular third base, or we have a forward third, or we have, I guess, a linear third base over here. So this is different. You don't often see like an elongated pathway to expand on the right hand side or to go for a forward base. Okay, so I can see. Likewise, when it comes to this forward expansion, it looks like it can be hit from the other side. Show us some tank lines. And obviously these ones will hit. But so if you take these forward expansion, then you will be punished the hell out of any kind of tank push that is able to get here. We'll kind of get to the rush distance a little bit later, but bearing in mind that this space is very exposed. The center expansion is very exposed, so typically we want to be taking either the linear base, which again does take a little bit more time to get to. Has a wider entrance here, a wider entrance here. I get like a wider entrance when it comes to the flanking path. What is... Okay. And of course this area in between the bases can be abused. We have a low ground high yield expansion down here as well. Interesting decision. Is that a full wall? Okay, we have a full wall in the center. That does mean that the rush distance is going to be a little bit elongated by that. When it comes to pushing into this expansion, or when it comes to rotations, really. Okay. This space here on the right hand side, it's expanding away from your opponent, so it's a little bit safer. So this will be the safer base to take. The base on the right. There's a very wide open area here. What I will say is that, yeah, it's much wider than we're kind of used to seeing when it comes to how accessible this space is. A little bit more so. But, I mean, the high ground is further back, right? The high ground is further back, so pushing down here, can you punish it? Flanking armies coming from this direction is going to be very awkward. You can flank it from one direction, but it takes a while to get there. Like, you gotta go the long way around. If your army's like here, for example, you gotta go all the way up here, then come around. So the pathing can be a little bit awkward when it comes to like a main push. Okay, it's a little bit quirky. For the most part, we're expanding away from each other. For the most part, like I don't see us like taking this base and then taking this. Like no shot. it's far too far away. I think the best you can hope for is you take this linear third base and then you expand towards your opponents. But even then, it'll be punished so hard. I feel like you have to expand away, right? Either take this as a third and then go for an all-in across the map. What's the rush distance by ground? This is New Moon. 29 seconds from natural to natural. This map features many different expansion patterns after the natural is taken. Yep, that is true. With numerous options for a third base. I don't know if there are many good options though. The natural has a semi-ramp with part of the choke up against the edge of the ramp and the rest leading towards the other bases on level ground. Center is blocked by destructive rocks as well as line-of-sight blockers. Line-of-sight blockers also placed on the outside paths. The forward low ground base has 75 minerals and 1 high yield gas geyser. That's in reference to this expansion here. So it says here, this map should feel standard, but due to the variance in expansion patterns, should create games with more varied attack paths between significant positions. Kind of. Like, again, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this map, and I'm looking at how the bases are laid out. I feel like obviously, I guess it depends on the matchup. I can see a Terran player in TVZ freely taking this base. True. You go natural, into your forward base, into the base behind, or you can even just take the forward expansion. It's a little bit too far back. You take the base behind instead. So it feels like a Terran player has a really secure forward base setup coming into the mid game. When it comes to pushing across the map as well, there are some engage options. Because of the terrain, it does feel like certain rotations are going to be a little bit awkward, but you can engage from multiple different angles, which I would say is a positive thing, a positive aspect. When it comes to other matchups, so when it comes to ZVP, Protoss, they can freely take this. I feel like Terran and Protoss can freely take these expansions. When it comes to TVP, Terran players will punish the space, so Protoss will have to be taking a more reserved expansion instead. Unless they want to deal with an all-in. I'm gonna say that I'm thinking of an all-in. When you're all-in and you're not going for, you're not gonna be harassing like this. You're gonna be pushing. You're gonna pushing through the center instead, which is more risky. Kind of abusing this position. This is more kind of like mid-game play. In the mid-game, if this base is taken, then you can like abuse this and push forward. True. Also, of course, like in TVZ as well. Yeah, sorry. Hold on. As a Zerg player, like, how do you expand? Because you want to be pushing forward to spread creep, but I don't see you maintaining this position. You're spreading yourself thin if you expand here. Yeah, the expansion options here, they feel a little bit more limited, depending on the race, depending on the setup. I mean, actually, I think you can defend this. Maybe. Maybe. No, like they should set up here and then they'll set up their Marines and tanks outside. Like I'm thinking of like a 7-minute push. Like a 7-minute push sets up here. They knock down the expansion, and then they pull away or they keep pushing. Interesting. It's interesting. I don't think there are as many options as they kind of pose. I think the problem with taking this expansion is that there isn't really another option to expand to from here outside of the low ground, and I don't think you can maintain that low ground position. So I don't know if you're really incentivized to take this expansion. In certain matchups you can take the forward base, and other matchups you'll be forced to take the base behind instead and go for kind of a different expansion pattern. But I guess you still have the option, though. You have the option. It can be interesting. Yeah, it can be interesting. I'm on the fence. Well, like Heart of the Swarm? Yeah, this does remind me of, as you're kind of mentioning, like a minimalistic, like, open plains in the middle. Heart of the Swarm, early Legacy of the Void. For sure. I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence about this map. I appreciate the options you have for a third. I don't think some are as viable as others, unfortunately. Depending on the matchup, of course. But okay. Interesting. Interesting to say the least. Up next, we have Outsider's Mask. Sorry, Outsider's Mark. My apologies. Okay, cool. Okay, here we go. So we're going to be loading into Outsider's Mark. From here, where are we dropping? Where are we dropping? We do have Center spawn locations. Okay, so horizontal spawns. This is looking quite similar to one of the other maps we featured previously. Let's wind it back a little bit here. Okay, so we do have our main. We have our main expansion coming down in here towards the low ground. We have a high ground natural expansion, so a relatively secure 2-base setup with, I believe, a pocket. No, that's not a pocket. We have an alternate route into the main, which I think is not even fully walled off. Uh-oh. Okay, intentionally so. So we have two entrances into the main base. It's very narrow, of course, very, very narrow, but there is an entrance into the main from the northern expansion. So technically, you do have options how you want to expand. You can take this southern base, or you can take the northern base instead. Looking at the terrain, this is similar to the Brood War map. The map is cut in half. The map is cut in half completely by these rocks. We have rocks here in the center, Zerg debris, more rocks, more debris. So the map is cut in half. We have top side and bottom side. Wait, we have more rocks? Oh! We have that. This is like a pocket natural third, fourth, and what? This is all it's fully walled off. This entire area. Well, let's zoom in. Let's zoom in, Pappy. Yeah. This entire northern area is fully walled off. Of course, eventually it'll be opened up. Eventually, remember that the Zerg debris does expire at around 7:56, 7:57, just before 8 minutes. Of course, you can also attack it yourself and destroy it yourself and go for an all-in or be aggressive in your own way. But naturally, we should have a full wall up here at least until the 8-minute mark. Interesting. So we do have these safer expansions, which means I could see some players be cheeky and be hyper greedy and go for like a natural and a third expansion and even go gasless. If you recall, on maps like this, like Radisson Station, gasless openers were quite common in a lot of races to be hyper greedy. Okay, interesting. We have the Zelnaga Tower in the center. Let's explore here the south side. So otherwise we have the more standard bases, right? We have our natural base being taken. We have our triangular third base on the low ground, which is quite accessible. I should mention that as well. So the low ground expansion is going to be quite accessible. We're going to expand towards our opponents. We have speed zones in the center. This is mainly for rotations. So once the center of the map does get opened up, you can rotate to the top side or rotate down to the south side, and the speed zones will help you with that. They also help when it comes to medevacs. Medevac drop play going straight through the center will be sped up by those speed zones. That applies to medevac drops. I guess that it doesn't really apply to drop lords. Drop lords wouldn't really go in this direction, but they might want to just to make use of the speed zones. So that's also a factor. German taxis might be sped up because of this as well, depending on how we push out. The rush distance by ground looks very short from natural to natural. Let's have a look. So let's actually check the stats here. This is for Outsider's Mark. 24 seconds, really short. So really short rush distance by ground. Because of that, I don't see you safely taking these low ground bases. These bases are open, they're exposed, there's high ground right next to it, and of course, very short rush distance by ground. All-ins will shut you down very, very hard. I feel like you're incentivized to take the northern bases. I feel like you have to. I feel like you have to take these bases if you're not going all in yourself. If you're going all in, then whatever, expand towards your opponent and be hyper aggressive, bearing in mind that this ramp is going to be very defendable, and the ramp into the main is also very narrow and very defendable as well. So these two ramps will be very easy to defend, and you'll be again incentivized to take these northern bases to get into a longer and later game. What else do we have here? Are we missing anything? Jesus, we're like in the ether, pappy. The hell? When it comes to these expansions, we have our natural, we have our third, we have our fourth, we have our fifth base. Yeah, really interesting concept, is what I will say. Very interesting. If I look at this map and I take into consideration, okay, if we do take these northern bases, how accessible are they, and how does it look when it comes to pushing across the map themselves? This space is looking... Okay, so in my mind, we have our main, we save this space for later, we wall off here at the ramp, we take this as the natural, We take our third base, we take our fourth base. The initial 4-base setup is quite secure. We take over this ramp. We keep eyes on any kind of flanking harassment here. It looks quite difficult to actually be aggressive, to aggressively push into the high ground specifically. The low ground base is more exposed, true, is more vulnerable. That'll be the 5th. No, that'll be the 6th, because you get natural, 3rd, 4th, and then you take this. This is the 5th base. Like, this base will be easier to defend. So you have secure bases. By that point, everything opens up. It's hard to imagine, but like all these rocks will eventually be knocked down. Center opens up. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting map for sure. The short rush distance is throwing me off. Remember, 24 seconds, so really small map. So very little time to engage. Haven't seen this map in a while. I guess this is like an older map. Good to re-download from the G Drive. Same link, just new version. Okay, thank you. Gracias, papi, gracias. Alright, let's see, Exarch. We'll download. But when it comes to the map itself here, it's an interesting design because it's so small, because the rush distance is so short. It's gonna be hard to judge whether or not we can actually get into like a proper like mid to late game situation. I do think these bases are a little bit more secure, so I do think there's a higher chance of that happening. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting map for sure. I appreciate how open it is. I appreciate that even though it's more defendable, like the openness here does allow for some counterplay. It's a bold map. It's bold. Curious. All right, let's open up Exarch. Send us in, baby. Send us in. Full player? No shot. Oh, let's go. Another 4-player. Okay. We have more than one 4-player spawn map. Let's go, baby. Top right. Okay. 4-player spawn. We have top right spawn. And once again, we have that monorail system with a bit of a more fancy lighting, might I add. So it looks like similarly to the previous map, to Fear and Scars. No, Dream and Scars. Fear and Faith, that's it, Fear and Faith. It takes that similar design here, and we do have, you can see this worker path all the way towards the other corner, and likewise another worker path here. You can see here another worker path all the way to the other corner. So this is meant to help when it comes to scouting early on, meant to take away from some of the RNG, some of the randomness that does come into a 4-player spawn map. Okay, so we have that monorail system, we have that those tubes, the aqueducts that go from corner to corner. Meanwhile, we have Jesus. What am I looking at? Hold on, baby. Hold on. We have our natural base. We have a backwards expansion leading into the rest of the map. We have a mineral path here, and a bit of a wider ramp coming into the natural as well. Interesting. Now, because of this does mean that your mineral line is more exposed than usual. Just because it's facing the map, it's facing everything else, so it's a little bit more exposed, but it's further back, so specifically it's not within range of tanks. It means that you tanks in the siege up here, they won't get within range of the expansion itself. The ramp can open up a little bit further as time goes on. For the most part, a relatively secure 2-base setup here. Just a very unique, very unique layout when it comes to the base itself. Very unique. Meanwhile, when it comes to our potential 3rd and 4th base options, we have a base in the center Interesting. I don't see this ever being taken, except for the late game, for sure. Oh, look at the aesthetic. It's a very pretty map. Compared to Fear and Faith, like this feels like, this reminds me of like Diablo. Like God, the heaven in Diablo, whatever that's called. But that's what I'm getting, those kind of vibes just because we're up in the sky, of course. Yeah. But crazy. Anyway, so we have our center expansion, which I don't see taken anytime soon. We do have a base here on the left-hand side, which is relatively secure. We have rocks here, of course, on the map behalf. Oh, there he is, Oriel. There he is. Speaking of Diablo, that's why it looks similar, Pappy. So we have rocks here that do wall this area off. Obviously, you have to keep vision here to make sure you keep eyes on any kind of aggression coming your way. When it comes to aggression, we do see more rocks here as well. So if you want to try to apply pressure to this third, you have to come in from here, basically from right outside of the ramp. So technically, you can take control of this area just outside of your base to protect your northern third and to potentially even protect your fourth base, because it's very similar. Also rocks here on the right hand side, also rocks here as well. So we have really this area, the line that I'm drawing is the area that has to be protected to defend 4 bases. So one big kind of like angle of attack, assuming that rocks aren't knocked down, and eventually they will be. But early on, you have a pretty secure 4-base setup. Bearing in mind, you could be cheeky. You can take your natural, and then you can use the tubing system, the aqueducts, to actually make your way over and take some of the corner bases themselves. So the base is pretty secure 4-base setup. The 5th base is going to be more difficult to maintain, which is similar to the previous 4+4 map as well. Very, very similar. What about the center, though? What about that center? The center of the map, oh, Xel'Naga Tower. Okay, we have the center of Xel'Naga. I don't even know what this is. Divine Beast. Oh, that's an Artosa. That's an Artosa lobe. Okay. Is there like a Taster duck or something? Is there like a? No, not quite. Okay. So we have the center area here. It is very open. It's very open here in the center. I can see armies sticking to the edge instead. They don't have to push through the middle. If they stick to the edge, then there's a little bit more terrain that can work with you. But I will say, it does seem quite awkward to push across the map. Like, you have to be very careful, and you have to ideally, like, hug these rocks, hug these pillars to reduce surface area to make your way across. The map actually seems quite small compared to the other. Hold on, let me just double check. So Exarch is 156 by 156. Meanwhile, Fear and Faith is 158, 158. Okay. So this is smaller, technically. A little bit. It is a little bit smaller compared to the other map. Yeah, so we have our pocket base, quote unquote pocket base. We maintain this area on the low grounds. Yeah, I don't see us pushing through the middle here. Like, we gotta like rotate from the edge to strike the bases. I think the biggest issue that I have is that it feels like attack paths into your 4 bases are very limited, but that's not necessarily directly in reference to like how exposed the bases are, but I'm mainly referring to like main army pushes. Like, once we built up into our macro base, like mid game, like where are we attacking, where are we assaulting? It's very one note, right? Like it's pushing through the middle or pushing through the edges. It doesn't look like a very dynamic map. When it comes to how armies push, how armies maneuver, and yeah, I think the openness of the center hurts the map. I think you want you don't want choke points necessarily, but I think you want a little bit more complexity, like in regards to like high ground, like points of elevation, like elevated positions, so armies can move up and down and like rotate. I think that because there are no viable bases in the center, that also makes things more boring. Like this base here, and this base, like we have 4 bases in the middle of the map, right? We have 4 expansions. But honestly, because they're so open, I feel like players are incentivized to use that, like the tubing system, and take these like safe bases instead. I think that if if we had some elevated high ground here in the center to make these bases more viable, to incentivize players to expand into the middle, and then to force engagements in the middle and have like some more, again, like dynamic like movement and gameplay in the middle of the map, I think that'd be better. I think it is a detriment to this map that these bases are so exposed because you don't want to take them, and then instead you just want to hug the edge and go to another corner. So map design wise, I think this is worse than, I think visually, aesthetically, I like this more than Fear and Faith. But map design wise, I believe Fear and Faith had center expansions, right? Or I'd have to double check. But what I will say is that Fear and Faith had a more interesting middle of the map. Like the center of the map was more interesting, had again a lot more like rocks, like high ground, low ground, like areas to kind of maneuver, where you wouldn't be afraid to like avoid the center of the map either. Yeah, I think this hurts it. Worker pods on those mineral walls too. Oh, I didn't. Oh yeah, true. I didn't see that. It's a little bit easier to expand to. Don't think it had center expansions. Yeah. Fear and Faith didn't have center expansions, but the center of the map was a little bit more accessible. Whereas here, I feel like you're incentivized to avoid the middle completely and to hug the edges, which I think leads to worse gameplay. I'm looking at I'm looking at Fear and Faith. Yeah. Like with Fear and Faith, because there are so many buildings in the center, like there's like a complex, like basically it's like a city. It's like a cityscape in the center of the map. You can viably like maneuver through that and push through and push like diagonally across the map or push like horizontally instead. Here, because the map is so open, you don't want to push through the middle. Like you want to hug the edge. So the map design is very different in that sense. The center specifically. Of course, it depends on, obviously it depends on matchup. True, like what I'm saying. I'm mainly referring to like versus Zerg matchups, right? Like PvZ and TvZ. For Terran versus Protoss, I think you probably can freely push into this. I mean, you'd want to, right? To like spread out your army to avoid splash damage. In that sense, true. True. So just catching up. I stand by it. It gives me Diablo 3 vibes. I mean, clearly, I mean, there's like Oriole is there, right? Like it's meant to be Diablo 3 vibes. So just catching up. What's up north? Oh, right, this. Is this like for a moment there it looked like a pallets where like we're like dragging like objects in, but yeah, cool. It's like a little seating area, I guess. I don't know if this is meant to be part of the map or if we're just like throwing down some objects here just to see what it looks like a work area sort of thing. I don't think that's meant to be a part of the map, I'll be honest. But yeah, I like the map aesthetically. I appreciate the 4-player small map. I do think there's some good ideas here. I'm not in love with how the center is set up, as I've been expressing, of course. Those are my thoughts. But that is my main concern. Also, un momento. BRB. We're back. Sorry, I just smelled something kind of weird. Looks like there's like maybe something burning outside, but like far away. So I was just making sure we were okay. It's all good. But yeah, interesting. Definitely interesting. Again, I appreciate the aesthetic. I'm still on the fence. Maybe I'll come back around to it. I'll definitely like ruminate on this map a little bit later in regards to comparing it to the other full play swarm map. And I'm curious to see if maybe we have more. Maybe there are more full play swarm maps as well. Let's go. Let us find out. As up next, we are going to be loading into... Where are we exactly? Dynamic maps. We just finished up Lilith, New Moon, Outsider's Mark. Up next is Raindance. Okay, we're almost done. Couple of maps left. Couple of maps remaining. Raindance. Make it rain, baby. Make it rain. Okay, here we go. So we do have interesting. We have a bit of a longer map. Also, I say longer, like a more horizontal map, if that makes any sense. We do have bottom left and top right spawns. Coming into this here, we do have our main. Our main is relatively secure. Yep, there's no way to get into the main base from the third base location, so a much more secure main. We have our low ground natural expansion. Coming into it, we do have an interesting setup here. We do have... Oh, there we go. We have our entrance into the natural base. There's no ramp coming into it, but we do have mineral patches here that can make it a little bit larger later on down the line. Interesting. You know what this tells me? There's a world where... There's a world where you, like... You wall up like this area, and we get like a 12 pool drone pool, and the boys mine the patches, and the links flood in like this. That's when I see a wall that is constructed of mineral patches. This is specifically for like worker pools where you can where you go for an all-in early on. Same with like a two base, like a. Yeah, I guess also a little bit applicable to like a two base all in from Terran where they pull the boys, but I mean the natural's less effective here. Like tanks gonna be setting up anyway. I feel like this is mainly applicable to like 12 pool drone pools, where you set up here at the wall, you just mine through those patches, and links flood in anyway, and they like bypass the wall. Hit enter and check the resources tab. Oh, I didn't know you could do this. Okay. 5. Yo, we got some 5 mineral patch nodes, baby. Let's go. Let's go. So when I see this, that it screams 12 pool drone pool. That's what this is. Yeah. 5. 1 boy is all you need, baby. 1 boy. Sorry, just catching up. Catching up in the chat. Looks like you can only wall. True. And you're gonna want to, right? So like, really, this is a bait. the minerals are a bait. Like if you try to wall with them, so as you're saying, you don't want to, right? You don't want to wall with them. As you said, like this does kind of increase surface area that you would have on the gateways themselves, so that is something to bear in mind for sure. Might yourself build a real wall, yeah. True, you can do that as well. Meanwhile, we have pocket expansions. Okay, so first things first. We do have our natural here on the low ground with a relatively accessible base, but like you can fully wall off, you'll be fine. It's standard 2A setup. Then we have a third point of elevation. Low ground, into the natural, into the main base, with a pocket expansion sealed off by these rocks. We do have a Reaper Cliff coming in and out of it, of course, but that is it. So a very safe 3 base setup. Obviously, these rocks can be knocked down in a longer and later game, coming into the mid game, but early on, you are safe and secure on 3 expansions. Meanwhile, we do have our upcoming 4th base. I guess there's no shot you ever expand here as a 4th. No shot. You'll never like knock down these zone rocks and expand in this direction. So you're going to be limited here to expand onto the right hand side to claim this as a 4th. Technically, you can get this as a natural and this is a 3rd, and then this is a 4th base later on. You can save the expansion for a little bit later, but otherwise you can claim your initial 4 base setup with relative ease. We have a more narrow ramp coming up here. I say more narrow, it's a little bit more awkward with the rocks on the low ground instead of on top of the ramp instead. So a unique position here when it comes to the rocks themselves, but overall should be well defended on top of the ramp. Likewise, you can focus your army here on the south side, pushing forward as well. So there's a world where you can get up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases with being on like a, yeah, with, I wouldn't say relative, with relative ease. Well, we can just, what is going on? Wait, what? Okay, this is something we don't see too often. The terrain here is very interesting. So we spoke about this earlier. We have our natural, we have 3rd base here, 4th base here, 5th and 6th, all on the same plane of elevation, with some relatively, I wouldn't say narrow, but like, no, yeah, like, yeah, with like some medium-sized ramps coming into them. There's a world where, yeah, you can just expand horizontally, and obviously the distance by ground is quite long. True, and you'll be more susceptible to drop play. I would assume mainly drop play more than anything. But you can like keep your army in this kind of position to defend. Obviously, you're gonna be spread thin. That's the biggest thing, of course. You're gonna be spread thin, but we're gonna be cutting the map in half horizontally here, with very little room in between. Interesting. Now, what I find the most interesting here is the main attack paths. We've had some criticism before. There was a similar map to this, if you remember. It was on the map that we felt a little bit bad about because they had Shadow Garden, that's it. On Shadow Garden, it was similar, where it had a really secure one half of the map leading into the other. But the big difference, though, if you remember, was on Shadow Garden, the bases were close together. The bases were close together. Here, intentionally so, we are spread thin. You're spreading yourself thin, so that is there to kind of counterbalance that. On top of that, the rush distance across the map to push across the map, I would say there's more counterplay options. So let's say if we're here, if we're pushing in, I mean, I say more counterplay options because you're spread so thin, like counterattacks, run-bys, that kind of army, the opposing army movement can be quite punishing here. Can be quite punishing if we do decide to take our own half of the map. Otherwise, the more reserved way of expanding might even be take this base, this base, this base, and then take these northern expansions. I think that's viable, and I feel like that's why we have the ramp here as well, to like to delineate between these two halves of the map. Okay. We got options. We have options with how to expand. There's obviously the goal base as well, which can be punished. I don't really know how much the goal base is going to really come into play. I feel like the punish is going to be quite strong, but you do have ways with how much you want to expand, with how much you can expand. How do you push? What are the map maker comments? True. Oh, we missed them for Exarch. Well, something that we missed for Exarch apparently is that there are speed zones in the aqueducts. Ah, for faster scouting. And also faster expansions, potentially. But really, the mapmaker comments only speak about worker paths for Exarch. Meanwhile, again, this is Raindance. So for Raindance, what did they say? Raindance is designed around the vertical and horizontal lanes. Yes, we did notice that. Did notice that those are kind of like the two ways to expand, either horizontally or vertically. With a linear backdoor third and 2 gold expansions. Having a read of the center is key as it governs most traffic. Even after the destructible rocks to the backdoor are gone, the attack path remains predictable, which keeps the defender from being blindsided. That is true. As we were kind of alluding to here, like a quote-unquote feature, but I would say like maybe a negative aspect, is that there aren't really many attacking options. Like there are a lot of entrances, there are a lot of ramps, but they're all quite narrow, and as mentioned, like it's only attacking from the low ground sort of thing. There's not much you need to do to really get eyes on the kind of army movements and army rotations. What else is said? Notable features: linear backdoor, 2 low ground gold bases. There are 2 reduced mineral patches at the natural wall for more options when it comes to walling off. Yeah, there's no other real comments. Okay. Whew. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting one. I think my big concern for a map like this is limited attack options. I think that's my big concern. I don't really see much engagements happening in the center of the map. I think the defensive position is just too strong. Like when it comes to fighting with the high ground, with the elevated position, with the elevated advantage. I think I guess my big issue here is that because so many bases are on the high ground, you're not really incentivized to push down. Even if you go for these expansions up here as well, like you're incentivized to just like to sit and to let your opponent come to you because you have such a big advantage when it comes to these ramps, right? When it comes to this ramp here, when it comes to this ramp here, I would say maybe the most accessible base is this one, but even then, like it's difficult to really take advantage of this. Like I still would say this is the most exposed expansion, maybe, but even then it's like tucked away. And you're prone to like getting surrounded, getting flanked. Like if an opposing army pushes in here, then you can just come in from behind and from the front, and you can just catch them and trap them. So yeah, I don't know if I like this map, just because it doesn't feel like there are many contestable expansions. Regardless of how you expand. I think I would like this map a lot more if this space was on the low ground. if we had a ramp here, like have a ramp here, have this be on the low ground, so then this space is more exposed and this space and these two bases are isolated from each other. And that'll be the case here as well. Have this be on the low ground. Because then this expansion would be more vulnerable, more exposed, would allow for more engagements, more fights. Would make it more difficult to take top 2 or bottom 2 bases. Yeah, I think this being on the high ground just makes it a little bit too, yeah, samey. It's always up a ramp. Yeah, it's just always up a ramp. It's always up a ramp. which I don't think leads to fun games. I don't think it's, yeah, it doesn't excite me, unfortunately. Doesn't excite me. All right, up next, Lumen. Lumen up next. I'll write down my thoughts after. I'll get some food and get some rest, and then get to typing up everything. Okay. So Lumen, we have bottom right and top left, assuming that we, yeah, okay, bottom right and top left. Oh, I'm, I know this map. We've seen this before. This is Talisman 2.0. True, true. So coming to Lumen here, we have our main base. We do have a hybrid expansion right next to it with a worker path coming down into the hybrid expansion. So we do have interesting setup here when it comes to your potential natural expansion. We have these destructible debris protecting it a little bit at least, but it is still open to the rest of the map. Coming down to the top side, we have a much more standard and secure natural base. We have a wider entrance into the natural as well. Leading to the high ground third. So we have a pretty stable 3-base setup here. I would say the distance between your main base and your northern bases are a little bit longer. True. So longer rush distance by ground. But here we have the hybrid expansion, and this base leads into something more interesting, into another hybrid base. So you can take this base, then push forward, expand once again, and take another base here, and then push forward, and that leads into a main push. There. You can either push across to your opponent's hybrid expansions or push across into your opponent's natural bases. Like, this will be like your attack point, your launch point. But when it comes to the center of the map, it looks like there's, again, a little points of elevation, side blockers as well, ways to engage, ways to attack, ways to counterattack even as well. Meanwhile, a big shout to Este Chanchito, papi. Papi, we're almost done. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pig, for the raid. Hope you had a great stream. Hope you had a great ladder session, I'm assuming. Hope you had a great time. Everything else, welcome, welcome, one and all. As we're nearing the end of our TLMC judging stream, it's been 6 hours. Jesus. We've been going through a lot of maps. I'm starving. We've been going through a lot of maps. We have 4 maps left. 4 maps left to go. 4 maps left. But again, this should be a map that's relatively familiar to you. I believe this map is in the Exarch Cup, if I'm not mistaken. I should sorry, I need to set this up. Lumen. Beautiful, beautiful. But I do appreciate kind of like the unique expansion pattern here when it comes to taking the hybrid expansion, going through the natural in towards that forward third. When it comes to building up to a longer macro game, there's potential here. You can knock down these rocks, you can limit attack paths, you can expand here behind on the low ground, and you can actually expand away from each other. So this can lead into longer games. I will say that I haven't had too much experience casting this map. I haven't been able to cover too much Exarch Cup as of late, so I have less experience. You know, maybe there's a little bit more experienced viewers in the chat that can maybe give some insights as to any kind of longer and later games that were played on Lumen. In general, like, players are typically adverse to playing on some of the newer maps, so I don't really know how much data we have on this map currently through Exarch Cups. So hard to say. But I do like this a lot more than Talisman. Talisman had its own issues, definitely had its own issues, but here I do appreciate this kind of map layout a little bit more. I did miss this, but we do have a high yield gas geyser base here on the low ground as well. Interesting. It looks a lot more difficult to maintain, a lot more difficult to take, but it's there potentially in a longer game state. I think probably one of the more interesting things to hear about this map is because you have multiple natural locations and multiple ways to expand on this map, it can lead into very different kind of game states. It's similar to Dream and Scars in that way. Dream and Scars is... its unique feature is that you can have very different kind of games depending on where you spawn. Here, I feel like you can have very different games depending on how you expand and how your opponent expands as well. Like, depending on where they expand towards and the direction that they go to can lead into more aggressive games or can lead into more macro games as well. I don't know if that's intentional, but if so, like, that's something that I appreciate about this map, is that you can have some diverse either hyper aggressive games or more longer later games depending on, again, kind of how we expand. There was a longer TBT, I see. It got played a decent bit. Less so after Dreams got removed from the pool, though. Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, it's interesting. Definitely interesting. Fitting for a dynamic map. It's dynamic, baby. True, true. Este Lumen. Alright, we got 3 maps left. 3 maps left to go. Old Sun Temple. Is the natural ramp blockable with a single pylon? If you're referring to the entrance into the hybrid expansion, I think that's 2, but I guess patches would no. Send wall. Okay. But there we go. Jesus, what are we looking at? The Old Sun Temple. Okay, do we have another 4? We have another 4-player sport. Oh my god, okay. You know what? Last time we only had the 1, correct? But another 4-player small map. Okay, show us what you got. All right, we have our main. We have our main base. We're going to be going into bottom right. We have our main, relatively standard, not too accessible here. Tubeling Stalker Aggression. We have our natural expansion with a bit of a wider ramp coming into the natural. Pushing from the natural base, we have a more narrow ramp coming into the area between the natural and the third. Wider ramp towards the left-hand side. So far, pretty standard 3-base setup. I say that, I have to eat my words a little bit here. We have a much more secure third. We have a mineral wall off here towards the right-hand side and destructible debris. This makes the initial 3-base setup pretty secure. Likewise with the 4th base as well, as we have more mineral patches and more rocks, as that leads into the other corner of the map. Okay. So that's kind of where like your quadrant ends. Interesting. This feels a little bit smaller. Hold on. Let's double check here. Old Sun Temple 156. I believe this is smaller compared to, yeah, Fear and Faith. Okay. A little bit smaller compared to Fear and Faith. For the most part, you have a relatively secure 4-base setup. I will say that as opposed to the previous map, as opposed to Exarch, the distance between your 3rd and 4th base is a little bit longer here. Previously, if you remember, the natural was dead set in the middle. So think of this map, except think of the natural base here in the middle, so it was easier to rotate back and forth between your bases. Here, the base is a little bit further back, so longer rotations. Longer rotations that may factor in when it comes to defending some of your fringe expansions. You can knock down the center rocks, so that will slow things down a little bit more. We do have speed zones in the center of the map. That does help when it comes to scouting. Unlike the other maps, there are no monorail systems, right? There are no monorail systems here covering the edge of the map, so this will make it a little bit more difficult to not just scout, but also expand in the corners of the map as well. True. So this is a little bit more of a standard 4-base setup as opposed to the more modern variations we've been seeing with those monorail systems, with those like speed zones. Here, instead, the speed zones are in the center. Once again, this does help when it comes to scouting information. This also helps a little bit when it comes to rotating. I say a little bit. Typically, the army is going to be rotating here, a little bit closer to the bases. You're a little bit less likely to pull back to the center to rotate back around. So it's mainly like scouting and, of course, like rush distance across the map. So the healing pads are a little bit limited with how they can be utilized. Yeah, they're a little bit more limited. But what I do appreciate, we spoke about this, we criticized Exarch for having a very open center. Here, once again, we have speed zones, we have the Zelnaga Tower, we have some points of elevation, we have some rocks that can be knocked down. I will say that it is more viable here to push through the center, to push through at least the center edges or the center of the map. Previously, on some of the other maps, it was just overly open, overly exposed, which kind of dissuaded any kind of pushes, which did force you to stick towards the edges instead. Here, you can traverse through the center. I will say that expanding towards the edges is going to be more difficult. Because the other maps had that kind of monorail system, it allowed you to go into the corners much easier, to take these ninja expansions and take these hidden bases. Here, you have to expand in a much more standard fashion. Like, there's no easy way to get into the corners of the map. So that does lead into a more standard kind of expansion pattern. And can lead into some very, very long games if we have cross spawns. Like we Let's read some of the mapmaker comments. On this expansive 4-spawn map, you can easily take 3 bases along your high ground. A 4th is right below your main. Beyond that, you have to unlock the shortest path to your 5th base by opening up a ramp by either mining or destroying the rocks, as we mentioned. 1 close spawn is disabled, so scouting is more straightforward. Okay, so now we know that it's not purely RNG when it comes to spawn locations. Straightforward, where both players would scout for the close spawns first, then move on to the cross spawn, reducing the randomness without reducing the skill of adapting to 2 possible spawn scenarios. Okay. So that does help make up for the lack of like monorail system, is that there's only one possible like close spawn. Okay. The cross-map path is supported by speed zones to counter aggression in close spawns. You can throw down rock towers to block important paths. A mineral wall ramp is supposed to allow expanding without having to bring your entire army from being out on the map. But also allows you to be aggressive and to punish bases. Okay, cool. It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting take here. I think, what I think. So we have 3 4-player spawn maps. Comparing them. I think I still like Fear and Faith more. I think the ease of expanding is one thing on Fear and Faith. Fear and Faith does feel a little bit less choky in the middle. I'm referring to specifically the scenario of knocking down these towers and reducing like pathways and limiting your opponents. I can see a lot of late game on this map, for sure. I can see a little longer in later games. I think this is maybe one of the more defensive maps out of our 3 4-player spawn maps so far. So just catching up with the chat. Catching up. Pico saying they were thinking of adding a 4th non-ladder map because people keep playing them over the ladder maps. Okay. I think the only limiting factor with adding extra non-ladder maps is that does take away your ability to partner with OSC. I know that that's something that we are limited by, is partnering with OSC. Right now it's 5 non-ladder maps, but you still have pros basically only playing the ladder maps, vetoing all the non-ladder. I mean, it's different. Like when TLC judging goes through and when we have our top 16, I mean, you know this patches for us, and I would hope that other organizers follow suit. We're probably going to have like purely TLMC map pools, right? Like we're just going to have pure TLMC map pools, no ladder maps whatsoever, just to get as much data on all these maps as possible. So that'll be happening once we get our finalists. And I would imagine most tournament organizers will push for that. I know that some didn't. I know that KSL didn't last season. I know that Wardy was very late. Wardy was very late with his tournaments. Eventually he got there, but it took him a long time. I think the Comeback TV, Monday Night Weeklies, they were fast to do it. They were fast to incorporate maps. But most of them should, and we ideally will be pushing for that as well. I'd imagine Big Star would probably go full non-ladder maps. Yeah, I think most, if not all, online tournaments will be doing that. It's unfortunate that half the finalists are not using the ladder. So I'm just sort of catching up. Okay, cool. That's it. It's catching up. But yeah, it's an interesting one. 4-player map. I do think that this is maybe the most turtle heavy one. The most turtle heavy 4-player map. Just because of the terrain in the center, just because of the destructible towers, and how you expand. Basically, I would say the biggest difference is that the distance between your natural 4 bases and the 5th base is shorter on this map than on Fear and Faith and on Exarch. I think on those 2 maps, the distance is much, much greater. But here, because it's shorter, it's easier to defend, easier to maintain, and then you can start working towards like the rest of your expansions. So in that sense, like this feels like we're going to be seeing a lot more longer and later games here. Okay. Interesting. Up next is going to be Stinger. Stinger, pappy. We got 2 maps left. Do we have another? How many? Jesus. How many 4-player swarms do we have? Oh my god. Okay. Let's go. They just keep coming. We have bottom right. Okay, we have bottom right. We have a double Reaper Cliff coming in towards the main base and relatively defendable main against any kind of blink play. We have our high ground natural expansion, so we have our secure 2 bases. We have almost a pocket third here. Interesting. We have rocks coming into it. We have destructible debris, expiring debris, I should say, but overall a very safe 3 and 4 base setup as we're fully walled in. Jesus, I just said that the last map, that old Sun Temple, was the most offensive and the most macro 4-player swarm map we've had so far. I have to pull back on that one because, Jesus, we essentially have a hyper safe 4 bases set up here with only 1 attack path. Of course, you can knock down these rocks and knock down these towers, but it takes a long time for that to happen. Until then, you're very safe and secure on 4 bases, more so than any other map we've had so far. Jesus. And then we're just touching tips. Yeah, we're just touching tips with the other bases. There's like no other bases. There's like no other room. Now, if this does allow for some close spawn locations, this can actually lead to some really crazy all-ins because the debris are going to be expiring naturally over time anyway, and then we can knock that down and then just push straight into the bases. True. So that does add a little bit more complexity to it. And I guess that is why, specifically, as you can see here, the Zerg debris, the expiring walls, are specifically connecting the bases. It's the more permanent debris in the center instead. So that does allow for some more aggressive moves, like clockwise or on the edges of the map. Let's see what our map maker has to say. So this is for Stinger. Alright, I didn't even get to mention, but thank you so much for the raid, Pig, and for those that are just now tuning in, this is our judging stream for the TLMC 22. We are one of the main judges for the Team Liquid map contest, and this is our second stream. We've been going through a lot of the maps here, and after the end of the stream, I'll be finalizing my feedback, finalizing our scores, and pushing through our final results. That'll be later on tonight, of course. Later on tonight. Let's have a look. A small map for a 4-player small map. Yes, this is the smallest out of all the 4-player small maps. True. In order for the rush distance to not be too short, the rush path is forced through the middle, with separating the 3rd base of each corner with a set of Zerg rocks. Yes. Okay. Cool. Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, cool. So to help with scouting, there are speed zones. I didn't notice, but we do have speed zones here connecting the bases. So this isn't quite the same monorail system, but remember, this map is smaller, and to help with scouting, basically all the bases are connected here with these worker-only paths, these tree trunks. Basically, these tree trunks with these speed zones, workers can very quickly speed in, check for bases, and then speed out, and then check each corner of the map. So interesting use here of speed zones, interesting use of worker paths. This is an alternate kind of an alternate way of approaching this. Basically, every 4-player spawn map that we've had has had some way to help with worker scouting in their own way. We've had like the monorail systems. Here we have the tree bridges. Previously, we had the mass amount of speed zones in the center of the map as well. So each one has approached it in a different way. So I do appreciate that. They've all put thought into it in their own way. So the players don't have to scout at 3 positions. One close spawn position was excluded. So just like the last 4-player spawn map, one close spawn it's just not going to happen. Opponent either spawns horizontally or across. Okay, cool. That's kind of all the notes that they do have. But again, depending on spawn locations, aggression is going to be available here, more so than on any of the other maps either. I will say that this is maybe the most aggressive map, aggressive 4-player spawn map compared to all the other 4-player spawn maps, specifically because of the destructible debris and the potential close spawns. I should say that as well. Like, potentially, if you spawn right next to each other, you can start working on this, knock it down, go for your all-in, and commit into your bases. If your opponent's not ready for it, then they can get caught with their pants down. Especially considering how short the rush distance is between bases and how exposed these expansions can be, again, depending on spawn location. Interesting. I think I like this more than the previous one. I do think that the previous map was a little bit too turtle heavy. It favored defensive play a little bit too much. Here, when it comes to aggression, if you have close spawns, it can lead to a more aggressive game. If you have diagonal spawns, though, that's when you force macro. But again, it does kind of depend on spawn locations, but you have that kind of option, you have that kind of diversity. Whereas for the previous map, it felt like for the most part, it was just defensive play, period, regardless of spawn location. So here, like, there's variance. In the previous one, less so. So personally, I appreciate that a lot more. Do appreciate that. Outside of that, yeah, it's hard to judge, right? Like, each spawn location can lead into different games, as we mentioned before. Like, this could be like hyper defensive if we have diagonal spawns, and we can lead into like a longer game state and a slower game state. But I do like the idea of potentially having like spawning right next to each other and dealing with that kind of situation. Cool. So I like that that's an option. Otherwise, we have one map left. We made it. We made it. Almost 7 hours. Best time to crash. Let's go. Let's go. Up next is Wrath. We had to feature Crash 1 last time. Jesus. Okay. Do we have another 4-player small map? We don't. Okay. Okay, so we do have bottom left and top right. So we have our main expansion here, interesting, with a full mineral wall leading into the main. That does head down into some hybrid expansions, interesting. So hybrid bases here towards the south side, accessible via destructible debris. Meanwhile, when it comes to our regular natural expansion, it's going to be here towards the top side. We do have a very wide entrance leading into it. Bear that in mind. So a wider entrance and more gold. Jesus. We do have gold expansions here in the center, more gold walls here towards the top side, more hybrid bases. We have gold everywhere. Oh my god. Calm down, baby. Calm down. When it comes to... as we have a bunch of slow zones in the center, bear that in mind. Likewise, what I find interesting is that we have a slow zone covering part of the mineral patches and also covering the gas geyser as well. So these these slow zones do impact some of the gas mining and some of the resources in the center of the map. True. Meanwhile, heading on down here, we do have our triangular third. So we have our triangular third base. Again, top left is going to be delayed here by the mineral wall. Likewise, bottom left also delayed by mineral wall as well. So you typically want to be taking the triangular third base. We do have the high ground advantage here. It can be opened up a little bit later on, but for the most part, a very defendable 3-base setup leading into the fourth, which also has the same attack path. So because of this, your main, natural, third, fourth base is pretty well secure. It's all on the high ground, it's all elevated. There are limited attack paths, and you could argue that you can just keep your army in this position to defend your third base and your fourth at the same time. Obviously, what's important though is that the map does open up over time. These rocks are destroyed, or they expire over time, so you can be attacked from behind. Likewise, your opponent can also attempt to, I don't really see them mining through the patches themselves, to be fair. So interesting. If you decide not to open up the map and not to open up these patches, then you're pretty safe on 4 bases up until these debris are destroyed. But even then, your 4-base setup is pretty secure. Taking these southern bases, I mean, again, the terrain does limit rotations, does limit attack paths quite heavily, actually. We have more gold bases here towards the south side. How many gold expansions are there? What the hell? Oh my god. More gold expansions. So I'm not too fond of the idea that this map does have very, very limited attack paths, especially because when it comes to these mineral patch walls, there's no guarantee they ever open up, right? So these, for the most part, I have to consider them to be permanent. Also, more slow zones. Yeah, more slow zones here covering the top side. So drop play is going to be deterred. Air harass is going to be deterred as well. There's a greater punish for that as they try to get away, to be hit, to be striked. Interesting. The goal base, it's going to be difficult to maintain without being punished. So for the most part, I would say that you have your own corner of the map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 bases here, all elevated, all relatively secure. You could argue that sure, like these rocks they eventually expire over time, but there's only one way in, right? There's only one attack path into these 2 bases. So by no means is it difficult to really spread out your army. Once again, you don't even need to spread out. As long as these mineral patches stay up, the only way into your bases is going to be these 2 ramps and this ramp here. Like this section. This section is the only section that's really vulnerable to your opponent being aggressive, outside of drop play, of course. Like drop play, like sky units, that does complicate things, but that's why there are slow zones. Like the thing is that we have slow zones, that's also going to be deterring drop play as well. Not saying we never see it, but does make it more difficult. When it comes to the area in between, we have this low ground section, of course, and the southern bases. These southern bases do incentivize some aggression, as you want to be pushing towards these bases to take them yourself, but I don't even know if that's true. We have so many resources here. We have, what, 3, 4, 5, 6 bases. We have 6 expansions already in your own corner of the map. Don't really need more than that, at least when it comes to playing the mid game. We could end up seeing some split map scenarios, and if we do, if the game slows down, then these bases do matter. But I don't think that's a positive thing. Like if we're saying that this map favors just turtling up and defending, and it's difficult to be aggressive and difficult to push in, yeah, this the aesthetic looks really cool, and I like some ideas here, but the limitation of attack paths does kind of slow things down quite a bit, right? Like the game slows down, and it feels like this map favors turtle heavy play, and there aren't really many ways to like counteract that. Obviously, the rush distance by ground is short. True, like we didn't really discuss that, but the rush distance by ground is short, and I'm sure that is meant to help. That is meant to add some kind of aggressive flair to this. Let's have a look at Wrath. I say that 32 seconds, not standard. Yeah, 32-second rush distance. Let's have a look at the map maker notes. Main base has 9 mineral patch nodes instead of 8, so extra nodes, extra minerals in the main. Lovely. But the natural expansion has less. Backdoor expansions as well as the top left corner base. have 7 nodes, but 2 are gold. Oh, right. Sorry. My apologies. I'm ignoring this. okay. So this is a little bit better here. For some reason in my brain, this was just a full mineral wall, and we just didn't have to talk about it. But these are destructible rocks, and this does add a little bit more complexity. Okay. Fair enough. So these rocks can be destroyed, and this does open up the top half of the map. I think this is pretty important. It's pretty important. This does actually give access to this area and this location. So my bad. Did miss that. My brain, I was just seeing so many gold bases. My brain just missed that entirely. It is a narrow entrance. It's going to be difficult to push in. Thankfully, there's no ramp here, but yeah, seeing a main army push through here is not going to be easy. Not impossible though, not impossible. So that does make things a little bit better. It does force the defending player to split their army, to split between this area here and this area down here. So I would say that's a positive thing. True. All right, what else do we say? That's kind of it. Yeah, just explaining the rest of the map. I think I would want this to be wider. I think I would want a wider entrance here, just because this does seem very punishing to attempt to push through. Like, this can be used to harass, but like if we're talking about like a main like 150 supply army pushing through this, like It's not gonna happen, Bab. It's not gonna happen. I think, yeah, even despite this, I feel like this map still does favor turtle heavy play. These bases are just too safe. They're just too safe, too secure. I think I would want like just more attack paths. Maybe one here through the center, like one extra path through the center, or it just this map feels very limited, very restrictive when it comes to movement. Or even like half minerals, half rocks here. So then you have the option to break down these rocks and break down these rocks and just have another angle of attack coming into the natural. Something of that nature. Otherwise, at face value, it does look quite difficult to push into a turtling and defending player on a 6-base setup, which like again, there are just so many expansions for you here. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Aye. I think it would be best if you read the matchmaker comments again before you finalize the score. I mean, I will, obviously. Yeah, I will be doing that. So I'm not finalizing the score yet. I'm probably gonna get some food, get some rest, and then do that tonight. But I will be doing so. As always. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be adding scores to everything, revising everything, and then I'm going to be going through it once again and comparing maps to be able to kind of pick and decide, like, for example, my favorite rush map, my favorite 4+4 map, my favorite dynamic map, my favorite standard map, and giving them like extra points or like giving them a boost to push for like what I feel like are best. But yeah, I'm not too fond of the ideas behind this map here. I don't think it opens up enough, unfortunately. Whether it's having multiple attack paths, or even if this base here was on the low ground, right? If this was a low ground expansion, even that would be better, actually. A low ground 4th instead of a high ground 4th base. Even something like that, I feel like would benefit this map. To make it more accessible. I feel like, especially because if this base was on the low ground, then you as a player have more incentive to expand here, right? To take these bases behind and go for the hybrid expansions instead, and that would force you to spread yourself thin, right? Then you spread yourself even more thin or even give you incentive to take this higher expansion instead. But I think this 4th base being as safe as it is kind of hurting the rest of the map. But regardless. Rush distance seems pretty short with the rocks being down, probably. Yes. I would say that with these rocks being down, the rush distance is very short. That is true. I don't know how effective armies are going to be though pushing through this. Maybe they will be. Maybe I'm underestimating the strength of the reinforcement point and just how much you can just like hammer through here and just commit. Maybe I am underestimating that. But regardless, with that, we made it. That was the final map, Pappy. The final map. GG, well played. Jesus, that was almost 7 hours. Almost 7 hours long. Whew. God, I'm gonna go get some food. I'm gonna go get some rest. When I wake up, I will be going through all of this and writing up a bunch of notes, writing up a bunch of feedback, and finalizing my final scores. I do think that we peaked early, by the way, for dynamic. I do think that Blackshift set the bar for dynamic, and there was some. Don't get me wrong. There was some good maps intermixed. There was some good maps sprinkled in here and there, but I feel like we did peak early with Blackshift. For sure. Really exciting to see, what was it, 4 different 4-player spawn maps. Really exciting. So they had their strengths, they had their weaknesses. I'll definitely be looking at them separately again. I'll be looking at them separately and most likely be pushing for one of them to be like my pick at least. It's hard to say which one I prefer. I do think that the old Sun Temple is maybe the weakest of the 4. I don't think I'll be rating that too highly. I think that Stinger has potential. Stinger was the smaller one, which had potential like aggressive tendencies. I think the issue with Fear and Faith is that this is its 2nd time around, and we've already seen quite a bit of Fear and Faith already in online tournaments. So that does take away some of like the excitement behind it. I think that was it Exarch? Exarch actually looks really good. Like visually, like aesthetically, it looks really, really nice. But as I mentioned, I'm concerned about the center of the map. I'm concerned about how army movement works. But I think that's my only real issue with it is just army movement and army pushes on Exarch and how it feels a little bit too limited because of that. But maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe they just throw caution to the wind and just fight in the middle anyway. It's possible. It's possible. So we'll see. Anyway, with that, we're going to be wrapping up. We're going to be wrapping up 7 hours of TLMC judging. Gonna go get some rest, gonna go get some food, and we'll see you guys later on tomorrow. Tomorrow for our next broadcast. Tomorrow we're gonna be casting Ducklings Open SDO is gonna be tomorrow. My deadline to finalize my scoring and my feedback and everything is the 11th of April, so that's gonna be tomorrow. So I'm gonna be going through it tonight and then probably finalizing tomorrow to send in my results. Once again, I'm only one of many judges, and I have my own biases, my own perspective, my own ideas as to what I feel like is good for the game or bad for the game, what I look for, what I don't look for. And hopefully this stream does help when it comes to seeing some of my perspective. You can see that, so you can take that, so you can of course critique that as well, but at least get an idea as to why I may be rating a map one way or another way instead. Hopefully this does help a little bit when it comes to transparency. Hopefully it helps when it comes to map making as well. I did see some people earlier in the chat saying they were motivated to maybe even submit their own maps in a future TLMC. So again, best of luck to all the map makers out there. Thank you so much as well to all the map makers for making all these maps as well. We of course had our own thoughts, but know that a lot of work and effort was put into each and every one of them. Not easy to make these maps, and not easy to be that creative, to make them aesthetically, to make them balance wise as well, to add your own quirks, your own kind of aesthetics, your own flair to said maps. Not easy whatsoever. So thank you so much all of our map makers. Shout out to Shopify and Monster for sponsoring the Team Liquid map contest, for making this a reality, and for running it on a regular basis. And again, when it comes to voting, public voting will be open in a couple of weeks once we do go through all the initial kind of judge voting, once we go through our filtering process. Then it'll be open to the public and you'll be able to vote on your favorite maps. So I look forward to it. Do look forward to it. I'm giga tired. I'm gonna get some rest, and I'll be looking through all these maps once again with some fresh eyes and with a fresh perspective after I do get some sleep. But thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you had a great time. If you missed out on the first stream, this is the second stream for this TLMC. The first one was a couple of days ago. Do check out the YouTube channel. ! Socials in the chat. We do stream more StarCraft than anyone else out there. More than Wardy, more than Steadfast. Do check it all out. You can see our schedule, bam, on our next scene. This is our casting schedule. As you can see here, our casting schedule is a little bit lean this week. We usually do cast twice a day, every single day. Here, we just had our Friday TLMC cast. We have no cast later on tonight, or tomorrow morning, or Sunday morning. That's intentional. It's been taking a lot of work to go through the TLMC judging process. Usually our free time is spent editing VODs and scheduling VODs and working on socials. But we've been spending a lot of time on spreadsheets and on TLMC. It's been taking up a lot of free time, so less time to cast. So no cast tonight, no cast tomorrow. Our next broadcast should be See the King Open. That's going to be on Saturday, and Tunic Up on Sunday. Plenty of content, plenty of StarCraft as always. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the Ducking Open. See you tomorrow. I'm gonna go pass out. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Ciao. Bye. Ciao. Hasta luego. See you next time.